Let's talk. What you wanna talk about? Let's talk. What you wanna talk about? Kitchen talk. Let's talk. What you wanna talk about? Kitchen talk. Let's talk. Conversations that cool. Kitchen talk. Let's talk. What you wanna talk about? Kitchen talk. Let's talk. Conversations that cool. Let's talk. What you wanna talk about? Let's talk. What you wanna talk about?
Yo,
Hey.
What's going on?
what's going
How you
on?
doing? Oh my God. Like I haven't seen y'all in 10,000 years.
Right.
2 weeks.
Where y'all
Well, the pimp game, had me out there working, man.
You know, I can't with him. I can't.
Keep pimping.
Yeah, man. It's pimping.
I can't with you. I just can't.
It's pimping season. I went into my mailbox and got all type of letters, but we'll talk about that.
Oh Lord. Well, hello. Welcome to Kitchen Talk CTC.
Conversations that cook.
They do. I for real miss you guys.
For real?
We miss you too.
Yeah, like for real. I'm like, oh my goodness. Y'all doing all right? Everybody good?
Everybody's good. Everybody's good on this end. Yeah.
Good. We got Pastor D back in the house.
Yes, sir.
Hello, everyone. Good to be back again.
Absolutely great to have you. I did tell him that he needs a disclaimer on his Wednesday radio show.
Mhm.
Because I almost wrecked my car twice. I'm like, dude, I can't listen to you in the car. Just because both hands go up and you just drop, and it's like, okay, no, this is not a good idea. Oh my goodness. Enjoy him so much.
Mhm.
Enjoy you so much. So it is that time of the year again.
Pimping season.
It is. It really is that time of the year. So we get like a kind of 2-year break, and then we back at it, and then kind of a 2-year break, and we back at it. But the crazy part is we talk about voting all the time.
Right.
We talk about it all the time because it needs to stay. And it's so serious. Like I've been a voter, but you just kind of. But right now, the way life going, I'm like, I want to run to the ballot box.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, no, something else got to give.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And in my early years, early years, I wanted to be a politician. Like I really thought I was gonna be like the first woman president of the United States. That's what I really kind of wanted to do.
Mhm.
Why you shaking your head? Why? What?
No.
What made you say no?
No. What made me say no was maybe it was more so of the politicians that I've seen that what they say don't really match how they walk. And then the other thing that I didn't like was you are here to serve the people, but seem like everything you're doing goes against what the people really want.
Well, yeah. Well, politics is a dirty game.
Kind of that. I was like, how do you as the leader of all of that, navigate that. I don't have what it takes to navigate that. Cause see, I would be one of them people that don't make no sense. This is what we finna do. But you can't really do it like that.
But that's what people are doing now. But
Well, right. I
because
get. Well,
because
yeah,
you're supposed to be
that's
you're
what the
supposed
other one did. That's true.
but and you're supposed to know what okay, the heartbeat of the people, and then do what's best for best for the people, and not what's best for your particular interest as a whole. But we have a lot of people in office and position now, that it's really about their agenda. And they're pushing their own agenda. And this is the crazy thing, and I'll move off of it. A lot of times you say, you're supposed to speak for the issues of the people, but some of the people are so confused now, they don't know what their issues are.
That's true.
And the people in positions are actually giving them, this is what your issue should be.
Yeah.
So hey.
More power to the folks that like this arena, that can operate in this arena. But I just feel like it's too much compromise and not on the good side.
And he chomping at the bit, man. It's like,
Jump on in there, friends. I know you want
No.
no, I'm talking about Darrick.
I'm looking at France as he paces back and forth in his chair.
right.
Oh man, I'm gonna let you go first, Doc. You're the guest today, so go ahead and.
Lisa, what I'll tell you is, I think your feelings are shared by many, but Pastor Scott made a really good point. I mean, politics is a game. In many viewpoints, a dirty game, but it's a game, right? And you're either at the table or you're on the table, right? You're either eating or you're the one who got slaughtered. That's really what it is. And for some people, they play checkers straight up. For other people, they're strategists, so they play chess. And when you get into politics, it's a chess game, and you got to know that at every piece on that board has a critical role. And if you don't know what you're doing, you don't know how to position yourself, and if you're not thinking ahead of your opponent, you're in trouble. We'll talk about that tonight. But I mean, I'm looking at projections of the House and Senate races here in Florida, and right now there's 7-8 Republicans of the 120. When all things are said and done, whether it's the primaries of August 23rd or November 8th, Republicans probably going to have a super majority in the House in Florida, right? I mean, that means they're going to protect their 78 and gain some seats. I mean, but let's also be honest. This is not happening because they woke up one day and put in place. No, this has been a strategy that's been discussed. Maneuvers have been put in place, so on and so forth, and that's critical. And then the last thing I'll say, and I'll let my brother chime in, is what Pastor Scott said, I think is key, is the intellect of today's voters is a lot different. It's not illiteracy. It's just a difference. Some of it is just weary. People are just exhausted. They're tired. They see no hope when they watch the news or what they're hearing, so they just checked out. You have some who are very emotional, and so they're one topic, one issue driven. You have some where they feel like I'm voting the lesser of two evils. That was always an argument between Trump and Clinton, right? I'm the lesser of two evils. So people now feel like they're settling their votes. And then you got to factor in all that. You're also in a midterm election, right? Some people just check out in midterms. Like all of that's in a melting pot. And and then what is the gravy over the melting pot is people are just COVID weary. And so you have all of that going on. And if you are the incumbent or the majority party in any state, typically you're in a better position in a midterm election, and was meaning a non-presidential election. People usually are too lazy to even show up and vote and change anything. Now you're seeing things. You look at some of the other states, right? Like you're seeing that former President Trump's endorsements still have power in certain states. You saw that in Arizona the other day where they flipped some seats. You've seen it in some of the Midwestern states. So as weary as a voter may get, you have to be able to push back on the weariness, because when you get weary, those who don't align with your ideology, they get strengthened. And so when you snooze for 5 seconds, they use that 5 seconds to their advantage, and that 5 seconds becomes a major difference in a head-to-head race. My brother, it's on you now, man.
Well, you said it. When you snooze, you lose, right? And we just need to wake up. Georgia's doing that. I like what I'm seeing in Georgia. But it's you made the analogy between chess and checkers, and with my program, the Chess for Life piece, is deeper than that, because it's a quote that I share with my students. If you don't know how to play, you're gonna get played. So regardless if it's chess or checkers, and we're not playing the game correctly, so we get played regardless of what game it is. So yeah, we have to think ahead. And if that person's playing checkers, here we are playing chess, we still gonna lose, because we're not playing the right game. We're not using the right strategies. And I shared this on the show several times. We have to be proactive and not just reactive. And what we do is we wait for these elections, and then we get reactive. Oh, this happened, that happened, this happened. Okay, so now we ready to do something, but it's already too late. They've already been proactive, put pieces in place. Now we have to do double the work just to get something out of it. And it's not even the win. It's just, I'm getting something. It's interesting that you said that, Lisa, because I think that's the issue that we fight with now, especially in the Black American community, when it comes to leadership. After MLK, Jesse Jackson, just trying to think of some notable names that had the opportunity to go beyond just, senator or, governor. We kind of stepped back, and I think that has hurt us. I know it has hurt us, because we're not.
Neither one of those had a elected position, though, right?
They did not, but they had the opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest piece. We see the opportunity, but we don't seize the opportunity. And I think because of that fact, we miss out on having the right candidate. So yeah, there's somebody to vote for, but is this the right person who's looking out for my best interest, your best interest, the community's best interest, looking out for the garbage man just as much as he's looking out for the CEO, right? And that to me is the battle that we constantly have to fight. But again, we miss out since Obama. Now, Obama, to me, even Obama, we had that conversation too. You don't have enough pieces on the board to make the big moves. So yes, he was in power, but guess what? He didn't have enough pieces. And where did that hurt him? Midterm election. The midterm election, where we had an opportunity to vote in some of, let's just put it this way, crucial pieces to make some real headway in terms of laws and in terms of even picking judges. We saw how big that was, right? Just recently. Just picking Supreme Court justices. We missed out on the opportunity to allow the leader to make some great moves. And the Republican Party is actually in place. They're making the moves to make those major moves later on down the line.
But I also think too, and you said it, really, when you start trying to for our community, trying to identify what our issues are and what party is really or who's actually pushing our agenda. If you look at it, they're pushing the agenda uh, um, of other groups and using us sort of almost as the, oh, you're going to be the face of it, but this is really not about you.
Correct.
You know what I
Correct.
mean? It's really not about
Segregation is still alive.
it's and it's not really helping us. And so that's why when you look at it, us going out and voting, it's like you have a lot of people who are shifting because again they're saying with this party here, they say they're for us, but they're not really for us. I don't see what they're doing. You have a lot of people who are saying that. I think another issue that we have just overall when it comes to the mindset of the voter, again, we got to go back to social media. The algorithms of social media are designed to inundate a person with whatever they watch because it's to keep them watching and it's to just keep them on and overload them. And so if you watch one type of person, they're going to bring you another suggestion just like that person. And so after a while, you could spend all day long watching the same type of content, different people, same type of content. And now here it is, they're building a certain mindset. When you start looking at the steps towards oh God, if I can get it in my head, the thought just left me. But like getting people like Jim Jones. What's the word we want to use there? Y'all know I'm going.
Where you have
Cults.
cults.
Well, cult mindset, but something like where you get people to follow a particular idea and you get them to because you over inundate, you
It's
inculcate,
programming.
you program it, you just pound it in and pound it in them. And that's the type of society we have now. So you have people who don't want to believe the truth because you have enough people out there telling the same lie.
I met someone. I was at dinner a couple of years ago. My brother and I went out to eat, and we were sitting, and just so happened somebody, I'm not gonna say a lady, sat next to us. And I said, "Well, how you doing? What is it that you do?" And she said, "You know what? I manipulate people when it comes time to voting." So that is what she does for a living. Essentially, she's trying to promote whatever it is her candidate, whatever it is, whoever she needs to say, "Hey, this is why you should vote for this person." Doc, you said it earlier. A lot of us are not thinking critically because, again, we're just giving these people to vote for. We're not being proactive enough to say, "Hey, you know what? We got a young man named McGhee here. He's been in our community for years. He's been doing some grassroots work. He's been, pushing some of these agendas that we've been talking about. We wanted to start a community center. We got a community center. We wanted to start a program for youth. We got it. We wanted to expand some of the other programs we have. Man, this guy is actually pushing the agenda.
Yeah.
And this is what we need to do. More importantly, we don't even sit down to think about the agenda. We allow other people to tell us, "Hey, this is what you should be thinking about. This is what you should be doing." I saw something about Marco Rubio, and I said, "Perfect politics." In Miami, Florida, he's targeting Hispanic people who don't speak English and telling them the narrative that he thinks they need to hear, whether it's Democrat or Republican, but they're still going to vote for him. So if it's a Democratic push, he'll tell them, "Hey, the Democrats do this and this, and yeah, you should vote for me." And then he'll flip it on the other hand. And again, this is in Spanish. He'll flip it on the other hand and push a Republican point of view. The problem that we suffer is the same thing, regardless of the language. We got to start saying, "Hey, at this point in the game, we need to come up with what our strategy is."
Yeah.
And who's going to lead the charge for that?
But can I say this also? The thing is too, like for example, you mentioned Brother McGhee, and let's say, he's running for office, and we get him in office, right? This is the problem. Politics is not a one-man game.
Correct.
You can't do it by yourself.
Correct.
And so you will look at him, a year down the road saying, man, what happened to all the stuff you promised, right?
Yep.
And at the end of the day, he's saying, I'm trying, but hey, I can only do so much because, again, he's only one vote when it comes to trying to move a specific agenda.
And that's why we have to learn the gameplay. See,
that's where I'm going.
McGhee said the same thing. Darrick just said the same thing. We can't, it's more than one piece. Yeah. Whether it's checkers or chess, we got to be strategic in thinking about, okay, that's why I share this on the show as well. I'm not just thinking about the presidential election. I'm thinking about every election, down to the commissioner, down to the superintendent of schools.
Yep.
Because all of it matters. It trickles up and it trickles down. So I need to put my my pieces in play to say, okay, this person is working here, this person's working here, and then we're working as a collaborative coalition, not just one group. Now, this is a coalition of folks who are like, okay, we need better hospitals. What do we need to do? We need better schools. What do we need to do? We need better roads. What do we need to do? We need to take care of our environment. What do we need to do? And we have the tools. But again, like I stated, the best way to beat anybody is to separate them. In a war, what do? You separate your troops. You segregate them. Same thing, Jim Crow. We're gonna separate you, and we still see it today. It's. I think I saw this, and I said it's still true. We got to stop looking at party lines and start looking at humanity, because at the end of the day, somebody's gonna suffer.
Yeah,
and usually it's not the small guy. Usually, it's the small guy, not the big guy.
When you go back to the chess analogy, if you ever watch somebody who's playing chess, right, that person is a analytical thinker, right? They don't make a rush decision.
Nope.
You make your move, and that person then leans back and they study the board from the move you made. And what people don't realize of a chess player, and I'm not even a really good chess player. Just as an observer.
I wrote a book about it.
As an observer,
I need
to invest in that, because here's what people don't do. If you ever study it, though, what they're doing is not only are they studying the move you just made, looking at they're thinking about their move, but they're also already thinking, if I make this move, then they in return are going to make this move.
Correct.
If you bring that analogy into politics, people fail to realize is because, and you mentioned it earlier, is having a reactionary mindset, right? We vote based on how we reacted.
Correct.
We're not proactive, we're reactive. And the problem with that is then you are emotionally based every time. And so if there isn't anything hot button happening, you may not even be engaged in what's going on.
Correct.
Something is hot button happening, you jump in there. And as a result now, because your emotions are leading you, you basically prostituted, for lack of a better word, your vote to whomever it may or may not be. As a Black people, we have shifted from, when we were liberated through Emancipation Proclamation, we first were Black Republicans, right? And then we started shifting as things have gone along. And now you're starting to see a lot more. Like right now in the Florida legislative races right now, there are at least 5 Black Republicans that are running for either re-election or for election about the state of Florida. The governor just endorsed a Black Republican woman, Keon Michael, over in the Jacksonville area. That's a major endorsement for her. And all of a sudden now she's starting to see major money coming in. I bring that up because now you're starting to see as a people, we're no longer being beholden to one race. Herein lies the challenge, though. The challenge is what you mentioned earlier, is the divide and conquer, right? And so now it's the friction of, you know, the dark skinned black man, the light skinned black man.
Yeah.
No, the house slave versus the field slave, right? Create that competition, attention amongst each other, and so all of a sudden now, you know, it's you start having this collision of sorts. When you look at it from an election standpoint, talking about voting rights, let's look at Georgia, right? Georgia was successful in getting people registered to vote and then getting those same persons to actually vote.
Mhm.
As a result of doing that, Georgia became the state that ultimately shifted the presidential election.
Yeah.
Yep.
So then what do you do in response to something like that? You now start trying to change the laws and start
Right.
trying to do things. You can't now give people water if they're in line. You can't do drop boxes. You can't do these things because what you didn't foresee being successful actually turned the entire race. So now most of the predominantly red states all did something as relates to election law after the presidential election.
Right.
Most of those states did some tweaking in that regard, but that's a reaction to what transpired. But what we're missing in all of that, regardless again of what state you're in, what we're missing is what happened in Georgia happened because Stacey Abrams, 2 years prior, after she lost the gubernatorial election,
Yep.
she said in her concession speech what she was going to focus on for the next 2 years, and then began to do it.
Right.
And
And
the groundwork.
for 2 years, and then you
Yep.
saw the result thereof. And so we have to also remember now, Governor Kemp of Georgia, prior to being governor, was Secretary of State.
Mhm.
Right. So while he was running for governor, he was a sitting Secretary of State making changes to the election process in Georgia to
Yep.
benefit him as a candidate for governor.
Correct.
Right.
And so it took someone who had the knowledge of the law and had the desire to push back, the foresight to push back. You bring that over to Florida, right? It's no different. But what it takes though is us really educating ourselves, us really pressing forward. And because she was committed, and her commitment was whether celebrities get behind me or not doesn't matter. I'm committing myself to this.
Correct.
Because she understood that if we can get this certain amount of people registered and get them to vote, it flips any race.
And
I
the
think
other thing,
go ahead, please.
I got to put this in because she
Yeah, please.
saw it more than just a racial thing.
Correct.
This became a class thing.
Mhm.
Where I think again they try to segregate us in terms of your race, but we miss out. It's about your class. And again, we live in this society where a lot of people still try to lean on their privilege, not knowing you really don't have that.
Mhm.
You really don't have that. Again, because if we live in the same neighborhood, regardless of our color, and the hospital that's supposed to be working, helping us is not functioning well, is low, then we all suffer, right? If our roads are bad, and no matter what color we are, how much you make, we all suffer, right? So she's bringing that to light, and that's to me the biggest game changer for Georgia.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that other states pick up on that because it's again a chess game. She knew what Kemp was doing those 2 years. And when she was done, she said, okay, you switch the game this way, I'm going to flip it on you.
Mhm.
So those same people that you was going after, I want to show them that the things that you say you were going to do, you haven't done them. I want to show them that the privilege they think they have, they really don't have, right? I want them to see that because now that they see that, they'll now again come and vote, not just for me, but for a better state. And I think that's the other piece that we miss.
And I think your last statement, I think, is important. As you were saying that, the thought I had in my mind is that as a voter, I have to have the almost the conceit, but I have to say to myself that I'm deserving of and worthy of better.
Correct.
Right. I don't have to accept what's put in front of me.
Correct.
I don't have to accept that. You know, when I was growing up, I'm the youngest of two boys. You know, I didn't grow up financially established. My mom did the best she could. And so whatever she cooked, you had to eat it. And if you didn't eat what she cooked, you just didn't eat that night, right?
Right,
You didn't
right,
have
yeah,
no,
yeah.
you didn't have no opinion on what was going to be before you. My son is 16, my daughter is 12. As Bishop T.D. Jakes says, my blessing is their normal, right? They've never struggled, right? So they can open up the refrigerator and they have options,
Right.
and they pick and choose what they want. And so they can say, I don't want that, I want this, is based on their preference. From the voting perspective, we have the right to look at what's been presented, what we've seen, and say, I deserve better. And once we take on that mindset and be committed to that mindset, we should start looking at candidates differently. When people, when a person running for office reaches out to me and say, can I come sit down with you? My first question I ask any person, no matter what your ideology is, no matter what level of government you're running for, my first question is, why are you running? What's your why?
Right.
Because to me, that's always going to be telling to me is why are you running? And you know, and they all have a reason why they're doing it, right? They all have a reason why they're doing it. But I'm interested in that because the way you answer that question to me, I'm going to be able to discern if what you're telling me is even worth my time. Right? Because
I
at
will
some
put
point,
it this way, because politicians do a good job. I had a friend
100%.
tell me this.
100%.
You got a silver tongue. You got a silver tongue, boy.
Yeah.
You can talk
Oh,
and talk that talk. But what I also look for is what have you done? We have a saying in our fraternity. You don't have to tell me, don't just tell me the why, but tell me what have you done? What have you done in the past? Because what have you done in the past is going to tell me a lot about what you're going to do in the future.
Correct.
So that's why I said we're looking for people. We should be looking for people in terms of candidates. When we start stacking our game up, not just one person, going back to Dr. Scott, not just one person, superintendent all the way down. Tell me what have you done? How many communities have you worked with? What organizations are backing you? Tell me your past, because that's going to give me a good insight in terms of what your future is going to be. Now, you may tweak that, change that, but it's going to be hard for you to leave behind what you have done. So that grassroots work.
What happens when none of the options are good?
Yeah, see, that's a good point.
What happens when you really do feel, stuck between the lesser of the two evils? Or what happens when I know I deserve a better life, but everything that has been presented is they're just not doing it.
Well, we gotta do two things.
And this is kind of where I am and where I kind of been for the last, little while. And I'm trying to stay optimistic about it.
Right.
But when you think about, we've been through COVID, we have outrageous numbers of mass shootings. We have so much the young people and poor education and all of these things. And yes, I'm getting in there. Yes, I'm doing my research. Yes, I'm voting. Yes, these people telling me this, telling me that, telling me the other, and I'm trying to trust what they're saying and this. But it seems like the world is getting worse instead of better. We have people who have been in office for 10,000 years.
10,000?
10,002 years. And we are still talking about racial inequality. We are still talking about this. We are still talking about that. I'm thinking about the conversations I had as a younger adult that I'm still having now. But you've been in office forever.
So you have to do two things.
We got to do is changing, and you get the fatigue.
We got to do two things.
And maybe I'm just one of those people. I can't speak for everybody. I can only talk for Lisa. But I'm in my heart on purpose to keep going. But I'm tired. Number one, and I'm tired of you lying to me. Just tell me the truth. I want to be in politics because, I like the limelight. I think I could deal with you better.
But I think we have two things to do. One, we have to vote for the lesser evil. We cannot stay out of the game because we're going to get played regardless. You got to vote for the lesser of two. We got to stay in the game. And as we vote for the lesser of the two, we also have to do what we said earlier. We have to start preparing. So we have to start preparing for the next midterm. We have to start preparing for the next presidential election. We have to start preparing and thinking about people who have that mindset of better. We can put better things in place, but we can't sit out of it.
Right. Well, can I say this as well? I think too, we as a people have to demand more from either party.
Correct.
I mean, I think about it this way. By nature, most of us grew up conservative, but it's almost like the way it's presented to you. If you're going to vote one way, you're going to be ultra liberal.
Yep.
You vote the other way, you're going to be over the top conservative, and you're dealing with some other issues. And so for many blacks, we're sitting in a place like, you follow what I'm saying? So then it goes back to, if I'm watching something that this kind of sparks my attention, I keep getting fed that. I keep getting in it. I started getting programmed, and I start shifting one way or the other. And I start losing my own values and what I stand for, and start teetering towards somebody else's values and what they're standing for. The other thing we have to understand again is when you get individuals in office, again, some individuals are in a paid seat. Let's just call it what it is. They don't get paid a lot of money to by the state or the government to be in that position, but it's a paid seat because you have these other high interest groups that are funding and putting money in, and so they kind of don't want certain individuals in that seat, because if you get in the seat, you mess up our status quo.
Correct.
And again, so you got to understand too. Now, again, I'm not in any party meetings or anything like this, but I ain't telling you what I think. I just know this. I can tell you right now, the Democrats, they have certain people that they want to back, and you can be Democrat running for it, but if the party itself, because of what their ultimate agenda is, if they feel like you're not with that, guess what?
Well, see, that's the issue right there, Doc. Is again, I'm gonna use this chess analogy. I taught Lisa how to play chess.
And I'll still beat her.
Still beating her to this day. But you know what? Lisa continues to show up.
Wait a minute.
And every time she plays, I know I threw you under the bus right there, but I'm gonna bring you back to life.
I did beat you one time.
You did. And and who celebrated first? I was celebrating for you because you stayed in it. You kept playing, and each time she gets better and better, and she learns more and more. It's the same thing in politics. We got to get in the game. We got to start figuring out, okay, why are we losing? Why is this not working for us? Why in the Democratic Party? If I ask you today, who's the Democratic Party leader, most people wouldn't even know who that person is. Who's the treasurer for the Democratic? They don't know, but you're a Democrat, right? So we got to learn as much as we can about the game so that we can start playing the game. Because right now we're getting played.
You know what I think? What I think? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
I think because this is my life, it's kind of disheartening to hear it being talked about as a game and being viewed as a game, right? So, and y'all, we saying it and y'all using the analogy, but the politicians really feel that way.
Absolutely.
What are they
So,
actually are doing what
and
we're talking about.
they really, but for me as a citizen, I'm like, you messing with my clean drinking water and you think that's a game? You
That's
messing
the
with
problem.
my rights to choose what I do with my body, but you think that's a game?
Yep.
And so that's the shift for me. I don't know whether it's a female kind of thing or what, but we're talking about my life and you viewing it as a game. That's a problem.
I will go ahead.
No, go ahead, Doc. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Lisa, I agree with you, and I think the other challenge though that we have to avoid the trap of is we become so national politics focused that we're local politics ignorant. Right. What I say a lot is national politics irritate me, but local politics impact me. Right. You know, the city and county commission, the mayoral race,
Correct.
mentioned earlier, superintendent, those things matter. Right now, you have a contentious battle between two mayoral candidates. That's four in the race. There are really two who are really bumping heads. And right now, Commissioner Dozier, who's my county commissioner, right? She has major momentum.
She does.
And has real money and is raising real money and has real strong advocates and allies and backing in that regard. And that's creating a lot of nervousness from people who do not want to see her as mayor, right? Most of the votes at a city commission meeting go 3-2. It's the mayor, Commissioner Williams Cox, and Commissioner Richardson in the 3, and the Commissioner Porter and Commissioner Matlow in the 2. The assumption is if Dozier wins, you go 3-2 the other way, right? So there are people who are greatly concerned about her victory, right? But I will also tell people that their other problem though with Kristen Dozier is a real candidate who's very well versed on the issues, Tallahassee homegrown, family, a portion of the TMH hospital is named after her grandfather. Her dad had a successful business, Mad Dog Construction, which he since retired and sold off, so on and so forth, right? And so this is not just some pushover candidate, but also what's happening is now creating a conversation about policy, about issues. She's pointing out votes that the current mayor has taken and things of that nature, not just FSU, but other things. Like all of these things are happening. And this is a real race that has real ramifications. Right? You look at it from the city commission standpoint. You have Adner running against Diane Williams Cox. Right. You never would have seen that in years past. I mean, Adner was NAACP president, resigned. But if you look into his race,
he didn't resign. He just finished off his term.
I'm sorry. That's right. He's finished out his term. Thank you for correcting me on that. Look at his race, though. His campaign manager is Dot Inman Johnson, right? Miss Dot, who was the first Black mayor in Tallahassee. But if you go back years past, Miss Dot actually played a critical role in Commissioner Williams Cox's election when she became commissioner. She's now in the camp of her opponent. I mean, you're starting to see this. If you ask individuals why, some of them will say it's because they now have 4 years of information and they feel like I haven't gotten enough, right? A young man who just won school board, Marcus Nicholas, who's a good brother, right? Marcus
has been working for a long time,
succeeding Miss Georgia Bowen. If you research Marcus, and I know him really well, he's been doing this for a long time without any title. Right? He's a former tools teacher, community advocate. Like he's been doing the work in the community with no fanfare, no title for a long time, which is why he ran unopposed, because those who know him genuinely know where his heart lies.
Correct.
And so the risk of putting him into office is not really a risk because you got history of all that he's done, right? So all you need Marcus to really do is, man, keep doing what you were doing before you got the position. That's really what you're asking him for, which he'll do. And that's why people of all races got behind him, because he's going to be genuine in that regard. Now, to what you're saying, Lisa, about your life, when this is for me the most important part of the conversation thus far, because here's why we put so much attention on presidential, on gubernatorial, on mayoral, that we never really focus as the electorate on Congress, on legislature, on commissions. But that's where the laws are actually taking place. Those are the ones actually passing law. All governors do is implement really what they don't pass any laws, right? And so we think about it from a city commission standpoint. Our local ordinances, and Tallahassee is a bad example because Tallahassee is a weak mayoral system of government, right? You know, our mayor's vote is no more than the commissioner. Jacksonville is a good example of a powerful mayor, but we don't focus on the commission. So most time we don't go to commission meetings to know what's going on. Like right now, our property appraiser, Ken Akanyemi, was talking about how we're going to see an increase in our tax roll because of inflation, right? So already people are being priced out of trying to rent. Now you look at somebody who owns a house, it's going to go up because of inflation. Like these things, really matter. I thank him for his transparency. But you think about it from a local perspective, as we mentioned earlier, the tearing up of the roads. Like we see when you go north on Monroe versus south on Monroe, that's two different worlds, right? And everybody will talk about the two different worlds, but then we will settle for for the first time in a long time. You have some decent or good men and women who are running against the incumbency to create the conversation in both city and county. You're seeing some people actually put their names in it. They're campaigning hard. You're really seeing that take place. And I commend anyone who runs in a democratic process. Mm-hmm. But what we can't do as the voter is we can't become comfortable with, I hate this person so much that I'm just going to vote for the person running against them. Because what you've ultimately done is you've continued that same practice. You just shifted partner. Like we have to really investigate and professionally, because I lobby. One of my clients does candidate interviews where I get a chance to interview legislative candidates who are running. And they come in, they go a whole questionnaire, you get 30 minutes to interview them and so on and so forth. And you get a chance to really get to know a lot of them. You read their questionnaires, see how much money they're raising. Most of them who are running for the Florida House, for example, you'll ask them, do you have any desire to be in leadership? Most of them in the House are already running for speaker of their class in 2028, right? Because they've learned in the House, if you really want to have power in the Florida House, you got to be on the leadership track. And so you're already seeing this trend. Right now in District 8, we have 4 people running for this seat. And it is interesting to watch. But if you know anything about the history of District 8, the rumor about District 8 has always been that it's a owned seat, that they would always hand select who they wanted. So the knock on the knock on Gallup Franklin from people is not that he's not a good person, is that he's been hand selected as Ramon's successor. People are pushing back on that. Well, historically, that's not an uncommon practice. Right. Like white Republicans do it all the time. Correct. Right. They hand select who they want to be their successor. And here is why. Because you can keep your legacy items in place. That's not an uncommon practice. But the way in which it's done, we're trying to get invited to a game that's a private game.
But you know what? I want to say this piece. And I'm not opposed to that. But what I like is when we fight back, right? So like currently in this local races, you have people who are fighting back and say, you know what? I didn't like what you were doing here. We could do better, as Lisa stated. We could do better. So you know what? I'm gonna put my name in a hat so that I can make those changes. And if that person comes to me, I'm like, okay, I hear what you're saying. You got some good points. You know what? You got my vote. But you don't just got my vote. You also have my eyes. I'm watching you.
There you go.
And I'm keeping you to the fire. We do not do that enough. Whether you I'm gonna give you an analogy from my father. You got 4 siblings, and he didn't let us get away with nothing. Nothing. So it was like, you're my favorite. No, no, no. Right is right. Wrong is wrong. If I said this is what it is, he's going to follow that line. And as voters, we need to do the same. You know, it's not a personal thing. It's okay, you said you were going to do this. Let's make it happen. Let's get it done. And if you don't do it, no problem. We got somebody right here ready to go to take your spot. But we got to be proactive and we got to be in the game. Because again, they're just going to pass the baton to the next person. And that next person is going to do the same thing until we get in front of the race. I think the most important person in any election is the voter. Yeah. But the person who doesn't have the most say-so in a lot of elections is the voter.
It's the voter.
It's the voter. You got the most power. They say power to the people. Okay, you got the most power because you have it in numbers. But then we don't exercise and use that power after the fact.
Yeah.
And we got to get into it. That's why I said we can't get out of the race. So Lisa, when you said that earlier, I was like, because a lot of people are doing what you said. They get, beat down and wore down and like, I don't want to do that no more. I don't want to vote for that no more. For me, good or bad.
No. I'm definitely gonna keep voting. I will probably stop playing you in chess at some point. But when it comes to my life, I know I need to keep voting. Ain't no question, ain't no doubt, whatever. But there is a certain amount of fatigue. I mean, with this whole, trying and with, it really is. And I think one of the things that really kind of gave me this breath of fresh air or rejuvenation or renewal was President Obama. I was like, oh, okay. But it also brought out the blatant racism that you kind of knew, and it was kind of, but it took it past the surface and it was just seeping out of everywhere. And I think that is what we're getting, what we're feeling now is like all of that was kind of like, we getting along, whatever, but it was like, oh no, we can't let this happen no more, that sort of thing. So it's a little disheartening when you think, okay, we're making progress, but we're really not.
I think it is. We are making progress. Again, we got to stay in the game. When you see different people who decide that they're going to run, that to me is refreshing. Mm-hmm. Different people who say, hey, you know what? I could get into this game and I could make the difference.
Correct.
And I'm not just talking from the presidential side, but all the way down. I think, again, when our community starts to say, okay, we're going to take the lead. People were mad with the Black Panther movement. Why? They wanted to change their community. If that movement had continued to move and continue to grow, it would have left from the West Coast all the way to the East Coast. There's now a big movement in Detroit, where they're buying up the block again to say, hey, you know what? We're going to build our community back. We're not going to wait just for this leader to come and say they're going to do it. We're going to stand up. We're going to do it. Mm-hmm. And above that, we're going to take leadership roles too.
Yeah.
Right? We're going to run for office. We're going to start from the bottom up. If you're not in the game, you're going to get played. Yeah. So we haven't learned it enough because they're going to switch it up on us.
I think the mistake that the Black community made with President Obama is that we celebrated too long. Right? We were so happy about having a Black president that we were celebrating too long, and while we were still celebrating, he was trying to govern. And by the time we caught up to what he was doing and realizing, we started asking questions, why isn't this happening? Failing to realize that although he had the seat, Congress wasn't making his life easy. If you go back to when President George W. Bush was president, President George W. Bush, his first term, right? The first term of president, his 4 years of his first term, Republicans ran Congress. Mm-hmm. He passed every bill that came to him because whatever he wanted to get done, he can get done because he had like party in that regard. Correct. And so, I mean, listen, projections right now have it that at least Congress may flip in November, right? You may have Republicans take over. And you think Biden's having a challenge now,
Correct.
right? It's going to be even harder when one of the two is ran by the other side. I mean, right now, like they're literally having to negotiate almost everything in the Senate because, imagine just like, I don't know if I like that, I may not like that. The point I'm making that is we have to get out of the thing with just because you look like me, I'm a celebrate. That's great. Celebrate the night of the celebration. I go back to I'm from Los Angeles, you guys know. I'm a big Laker fan, and I'm a real Laker fan, not a LeBron fan, Laker fan. But one year when exactly, there you go. One year when the Lakers were in the finals, and they had won game 1 of the finals, and the reporters interviewed Kobe Bryant. And Kobe had no expression of celebration, and they asked Kobe, "Aren't you happy?" And Kobe said, "Why?" Yeah. And they was like, you guys won. He said, "Yeah." He said, "But the job is not done yet.
Not done yet."
And if you watch when the Laker team was winning certain games in the playoff, the young players would be celebrating, having a good old time. They put the camera on Kobe, business look. Because Kobe understood this is all about business. We're nowhere unless you win 4 games in this series, you're prematurely celebrating. And I think the same thing is, which was mentioned earlier, France, I think is so key. I am encouraged when I see first-time candidates vying to run because they said, I sat by the side too long. I kept giving you the opportunity to prove to me that you weren't as corrupt as I thought you were. I kept giving you opportunity. Enough is enough. Fannie Lou Hamer said it best: sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? Correct. Somebody always has to be the first fruit in the struggle, in that fight, to wear the lashes and keep pushing and propelling. But at the end of the day, there are people who run and they have the greatest intentions, and then once they win, everything about them changes, right? This is why Black candidates come to Black churches, because they know, if I can go talk to the Black people at church and I can get them, and what we do is, because you look like me, I'm gonna give you my vote, and then I never see you again. And then when I do see you, you lock arm with the right constituency, and I'm a burden to you, right? Correct. And so, and that goes. So go back what we said earlier, right, about our vote. The power is with the voter. The problem is, because the voter doesn't realize that, the voter just gives their vote over for free without anything at all. In business, one of my former bosses when I was in government, a guy named Adam Hollingsworth, he was chief of staff for the governor at the time when I was working in the governor's office. He had this thing, he said, "Darrick, whatever we do, let's avoid good meeting syndrome." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Good meeting syndrome is where I go meet with Lisa. Lisa's a prominent figure. I'm going to meet with her, and I have an ask to make of her. I'm talking to you, Lisa, in the meeting, you're nodding along with me, and I'm misinterpreting your nod as you're agreeing with me. So I'm all impressed, you're nodding. I walk out of the meeting, I'm all excited because you were nodding along. I feel good about the meeting. I made no ask of you, but I misinterpreted your nods as Lisa's with me. Then I go back and I give the report, and they say, well, did she say yes? I never asked you anything. And so now I try to come back to you. And the problem is I don't get that audience again because I messed up the first one. But what happens is that we make the mistake of misinterpreting the body language or the catchphrases. Back what Dr. Scott said, right? Let's bring social media into this. Social media has framed us now where our attention span is so small and so limited that now what politicians do is politicians are now giving you catchphrases and not full policy papers. Right. They're saying, I'm going to fight for Medicaid. I'm going to fight for this. And so they're giving you that catchphrase, no details as to how. They make it seem like they can do it by themselves. They're just one of many votes, but it's a catchphrase because our attention is not where I can sit long enough to engage you. Years ago in politics, you had to have a whole policy paper on every position you were taking and giving major detail. And folks were going to print it out. They were going to read it. Then they were going to bring it back up to you in a press conference. Now it's just a catchphrase. And it sounds
won the election. The governor won the election that way. He had no platform.
In the primary, there was no platform at all. There was a tweet There was no platform. And listen, I've been doing this a long time. I've never seen that take place, right?
Never.
Where literally you can win against a very polished politician.
Yeah.
But here's what happens. What happens is go back to what you said earlier, friends, about the young lady you met in the restaurant, right? There are people who are trained and skilled to know the thinking of the voter.
Yep.
Right. And so now they know how to fancy up a conversation. As you mentioned about the silver tongue, they know how to fancy it up. And so because we're so in awe. And so wow, one of the funniest things I always experience is when I met a white lady years ago, and she said, "Man, you're so well spoken." It's almost like they're shocked that you can be Black, educated, well spoken, well dressed. Like it's almost like a shock factor. And so as a result, we sometimes get distracted by the shiny object.
Correct.
Right. Or that politician who they have a fish fry or they have a barbecue and they invited you. All of a sudden now I'm gonna vote for them because they had a nice fancy barbecue. This person could be the most corrupt individual ever.
Correct.
But we ignore that. And so we have to, with you, Lisa, for example, thinking about, like you mentioned, with the frustration you have, that needs to be your motivation to research these candidates.
Correct.
And be okay with saying, nope, I'm not doing this no more.
Oh, yeah.
I felt
It
this trap
absolutely
before.
is.
I'm not doing it no more.
And listen, it's white and Black. Because we had a lot of people who said, "Oh, I'm gonna do this from our community now." And because you had no real track record, but we were, "Oh wow, nice suit. Oh wow, you doing it." If you have not shown me what you've done in the past, that's why I voted for Obama. It's because of the work he was doing already. I wanted to put this quote out from John Lewis: "The vote is sacred."
Yeah.
The vote is definitely still.
Absolutely.
I said that when Obama won, that we can celebrate tonight, and I say this on the show every time. We can celebrate tonight, but we need to already start thinking about the next 4 years, the next 8 years, and we have not done that. We still were enamored by the victory that we just lost all the way through. I think again we've lost so much. We may have gained a little bit of momentum, Lisa. I don't want to take that away from your mindset, but we lost a lot of.
It's you know, and I say, I say what I say because it is how I feel. But at the same time, I am one of those people that you got to keep going, no matter what it looks like. You got to hold on to faith. You got to hold on to your integrity. You got to hold on to your power. And you have to use it and exercise it in a proper way. I totally believe that.
And I want to say too, because like you say, the vote is sacred. One thing I've learned is this: people like free, but they don't value free.
Ooh, man, that's good.
They don't value it.
I'm still in that.
And a lot of times we give our vote away for free. They want our free vote. They don't value our free vote. That's why they push everybody else's agenda, and they'll only sell us an agenda, but they don't push our agenda.
And that's the thing. I'm gonna sell you the dream on Sunday. Hey, yeah, this is it. This is the promised land. But what about Monday through Saturday? You got to put that thing to work. The dream don't happen just overnight. We got to put this thing to work. And too many times we have people who come into our communities. I'm not just going to say churches, but that's where they get us at. And they come. You only see them that one time a year. That's why I say it's that time. Here they go.
It is definitely that time.
I would like to say too that, so let's say, for example, you saying, okay, the pastor, right? I mean, the church, they're coming to the church. So as pastors, it is our responsibility to tell the people, you're not giving your vote away for free.
Yes, sir.
If that person's coming here, you got to remember, I like to joke around talking about pimping, right?
It is a pimp.
But at the end of the day, we have the power to impact the minds of the people.
Absolutely.
If anybody's the pimp, the voter is the pimp.
That's right.
And you need to tell that politician, you need to get out on that block.
But we
what I
do
need
it. But we do it in reverse.
It's
Well,
in
we're
reverse.
doing it, but
Correct.
that's
Yeah.
why I say. But that's why I say it's up to it. It's important for us to say, hey, look, it's not just me saying my vote ain't free.
Right.
You're saying your vote ain't
Oh,
free.
ain't free.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody in our community is saying our vote ain't free,
Yeah.
and we're together.
Correct.
You see what I'm saying? Part of our
But
problem
the
is
hardest part though is
That's a
what you
whole
said.
nother kitchen talk about us uniting.
It is, but you
I
have
said
again
it before. They divide and conquer.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a whole because our argument is first of all who's gonna be the leader because
Yeah.
I want to be the leader.
Yep. Everybody gotta be the leader.
France want to be the leader. Marvin want to be the leader. Well,
Everybody
I
gotta be
No,
the
think it
Marvin,
should go
don't.
this
You ain't got to
way.
worry about that.
I think it should go that way. I think so I think even beyond so even when we think about Dr. Martin Luther King, it was still so many that was like, well, why he the leader? I'm like,
Yeah.
come on, y'all, let's just
I mean,
be together.
Yeah.
Well, I said
Let's
that.
just
I
be
said
together.
that in
And
the past, and you get
no real leader came after him.
No.
Did y'all
No.
notice that?
I
Was
think they
like
did
no
come
real-
after him.
I mean, I wasn't around during that time, but we haven't had a Martin Luther King.
Well,
But
I
that's
think
the thing that we keep suffering from. We don't need another Martin Luther King. We
And
have
I'm
to
not
we
saying
have to
it in
move
that
away
way.
from that leadership mindset that
But
this
how do you come together if you don't have? You gotta
again,
have something.
well, that's the problem. And again, I think for us as a community, we missed out on understanding that leadership approach. MLK was not the only leader. There was
He's
so
the
many
voice.
people who pushed exactly. He was the voice. There were so many people who were in the leadership roles from the pulpit to the secretaries of the churches who would say, okay, you got to go to this church this week, because we need to hear your voice so that the people will hear what's clear. Unfortunately, we have an age and time where we have different pastors and political parties who say, you know what, I'm going to be the voice, the leader, and everything else, and I'm going to do it on my terms. I'm not going to hear what everybody else has to say. I'm not going to connect Birmingham to Atlanta, Atlanta to Miami, Miami to Tallahassee. Until we get that part right and understanding as a community, that's not how leadership is ran.
Yeah.
Again, it goes back to what I said earlier. It's the segregation part. Okay, you lead the charge, but that's not how MLK was
I
leading.
get that. I get the leadership team, right?
Correct.
I get that. I understand that. Shared governance. I understand that. But still, there was kind of one.
there was a consistent voice.
That was right.
There's
Well,
a
here's
voice.
the
That we
danger.
don't have.
Here's the
Consistent
danger
voice.
of that, though. The danger of, and I'll just say it this way: we'll never have that again.
Yeah.
Correct.
Let me tell you why. Because the opponents of that approach will make sure it never happens.
Okay.
Because when you have that singular voice, and that's the powerful voice, what the opponents know is if you kill the voice, you kill the movement.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so
Correct.
that's the danger. The best leadership model, honestly, is leadership from within.
Correct.
Right? It's that person from within, because it's a sphere of influence. It's the people that work to be you. France mentioned a good point. But people, if people ever really study the civil rights movement, you're right. Dr. King was the voice. But when he came into a community, most times he came because he got summons there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But when he got there, work was already being done when he got there.
Yeah.
He did his part when he was there, and work continued when he left.
Yeah.
The challenge, though, is like, for example, if you ever watched Good Trouble, right? John Lewis's story.
Yeah.
Like, John Lewis said he wrote him a letter. And as a young boy from Troy, wrote him a letter. Dr. King sent him a round trip bus ticket. He came there as a very young teenage boy because he really, like young adult, I mean, because he really wanted to be a part of it. But when you look at what it was, I mean, the other thing about the movement was that they committed themselves to a purpose and an outcome,
Right.
even if death was realized.
Right.
Correct.
Right. When you think about that today, our movement, our protest is weather based, and it's
Reactionary.
time defined. right? We're not going to do no 3, 4, 5 months of protests on the issue. We may get a weekend if in that regard. And the challenge with that though is that the opponents of that movement know enough about what we do nowadays. And I'm saying we as a collective, not we by race, just what we by protesters. They know that you give them enough movement, right? That's why they changed the law that said now if you can protest, but if a crime occurs, if somebody is harmed during your protest, you're not going to be hit with a felony, right? It's now to discourage that activity because they know when people come together in major force, wow. And so, but for us, we have to understand that when you look at our foreparents and the work that they did, they got fed up with being told you can't sit at the counter. They got fed up with being told go to the back of the bus. They got fed up with seeing signs that said white only, and so they began to work. If you ever research all these, Rosa Parks, she didn't get on that bus to start a movement. Right. She was tired from work, and just didn't want to give up that seat. And it became something, or the lunch counter boycott, so on and so forth. For us, everything is reactionary, including how we vote. Yeah. And so as a result, even Black politicians in our local community, they know you may not hear from them for 3 of their 4 years in office. That year going into the election, they're going to be at every local event. They're going to be at every town hall meeting. Correct. All these type of things. And then they're going to guilt you into voting for them by saying, I'm the only one look like us on the panel. All of a sudden,
your current president did the same thing. He said, you going to vote for me, you're not Black, but that's a whole other kitchen talk.
So like even like with the, they were talking about the reverse of Roe versus Wade, and people were complaining about how, when they were taking these justice through Senate confirmation, how they blatantly lied. I could have told you they were lying.
Correct.
Right. You're, as a guy who's worked for a few governors, there's a way you train governors or you train agency heads to go through Senate confirmation. You don't train them to lie, but you also tell them don't overspeak. Right. You give them enough of an answer that's satisfying, and don't give them too much detail. Right. Now, these guys, if you look at these justices, their track record on the bench, you knew these guys were going to be a part of the overturning of it. You knew that from their track record.
Correct. You
absolutely knew that. So let's not be surprised. Biden said, I'm gonna put a Black woman on the Supreme Court. He's done that, but based on how they rule, she's in the minority. Correct. But we much as we celebrated, we have to also understand that it's gonna take a lot more than that. And we gotta be okay with making demands on both sides of the aisle. Because at the end of the day, back what Fran said is the power's with the voter. And if we got to stop saying, well, I hate Trump so much that I'm going to accept Biden. Well, that's okay if you're going to be that way, but keep demands on Biden as well. Right. At the end of the day, you're looking around, there are people, man, who are being priced out of an apartment. Yeah. Right. Gas prices are high. Like we can't be. I'm so worried about Trump coming back that we got to be demanding of that, because what happened, Lisa, is you're committed to, although you're tired, you're going to stay with it. There are many others who are tired and they're not coming back to the vote.
And they're done.
Correct. They're done voting. They're done caring. It's going to be what it's going to be. And as a result, the majority party, whatever that party may be, they win when we stop the fight.
Evil always rises when the good man is absent. I'm gonna tell you, I love the marching piece, but guess what? That strategy has already been played out. They know that game already.
Yeah, Lisa,
we saw that a couple of summers ago.
Yeah, correct.
We went out. A month. We give you 2 months. You know what? We'll give you 3 months. We'll give you 4 months. We know at some point you're gonna stop.
Lisa, create a T-shirt called "Value My Vote."
Like
there it is.
And on the back, say I hold politicians accountable.
There it is.
So what I want us to do, because France always take us over time. What I would like to talk about on another show is we say hold them accountable. I want to know how. I want us to talk about how. Because
that's a great
Yeah.
Great
I want us to
topic,
talk
and
about
there's
how.
so many ways we can do that.
Yeah.
So
You
many.
got the right man sitting right there.
I know. I know.
Well,
Doctor.
I'll just real quickly. I'll just say I like that topic. Here's I would love to have that conversation. Here's the problem with answering that question, though. People don't want to hear the real answer.
Mhm.
I mean, you got to have a backbone to hold people accountable,
Yeah.
Correct.
right? The same one that came into your face and stood 10 toes down and made you promises and assurances, right? You got to tell them to their face, if
Yep.
you don't live up to this is what we gonna do in
Yeah.
response of,
Yeah.
right? And it can't just be when they get ready to no. If you're running for a 4-year seat, and after year 1, you've already started backtracking on what you promised, we're gonna call you out. We're gonna
Yeah.
hold you accountable
Yeah.
because we put trust in you that you was gonna
Yeah.
do right by us,
Right.
and
Yeah.
you're not doing that. And we can't keep acting like we don't see what's going on. No, you see what's going on.
Yeah.
They're gonna keep doing it over and over again.
Yeah.
My last thing real quick, Brian DeLoes was the longest serving county commissioner. Brian DeLoes did one major vote that his portion of Leon County was not in favor of. And you know what happened? Them same voters who put him in got rid of him.
Yep.
They got rid of him. They said you will no longer serve us anymore. And Brian got unseated by a first timer because the electorate of his population on the north side of town, they rose up and said no. That vote was so detrimental to them dealing with environmental and land buying. They were so upset. They said, "You're out of here. We're gonna try somebody new." And it rocked everything. Right. But it showed you what happened when the people rose up.
Yeah.
That same thing can happen in our community as well if we're willing to do that.
Yeah.
And so it's possible. The blueprint is available. It's whether or not we want to abide by it.
A vote ain't free. Value
Everything
our
you've been
vote.
talking about is stuff that we've already shared. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. We keep playing the game, but we keep making the same mistake.
Yeah.
And until we change our strategy, we will still continue to have the same outcome.
And I want to say this, since they've been comparing this politics game to chess, we got to make sure to understand that we're not pawns.
No, I disagree with that.
But what I'm saying is
Lord.
this. But this is what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. I'm not a big chess man.
Okay.
All I'm saying is this: a lot of times you sacrifice a pawn.
Yep.
And all I'm saying is our vote is not. We're not the ones to be sacrificed.
So that's why I wanted. That's why I told you I disagree with that.
Yeah.
Again, every piece is important. And the pawn is such a very critical piece to the game. The thing is, we don't want to sacrifice because that's what Darrick said earlier. To make that change happen, that Lisa was saying, you got to sacrifice.
But you're looking at what I'm saying the wrong way, though.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, well, how you gonna tell me you're not, and I'm the one saying it, and you're saying something that doesn't even go with what I mean?
It
So
does.
how you gonna tell me you're not seeing it the wrong way?
It does.
Pastor D, see what I have to deal with?
We
love it, though.
We say
in communication, when I say something and then you're interpreting what I said. Now, my thing is this: when you respond, that lets me know whether you're interpreting what I say the way I meant it or you're not. The way you responded to my statement let me know that you were not getting what I was saying.
Okay, so let me clarify.
But you can't clarify if you don't understand what I'm saying.
I understand what you're saying. That's what I'm trying to tell you. If you say that the pawn is not important,
I didn't say it was important.
So what did you say?
He did say it wasn't important.
I didn't say
he said we are viewed as pawns, but we are not pawns.
I said,
but that's what I'm trying to say.
Listen
to
what I said.
We're not pawns.
I don't know. I don't know, Pastor D. I don't know.
I'm loving it.
Again,
listen to what I'm saying.
Okay, say it one more time.
What I'm saying is this: is they like to sacrifice us from the standpoint of use us the way they want to use us to get what they want.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm saying is, no, don't use us to get what you want. I'm not against us sacrificing to do whatever for the ultimate good of what's necessary. I'm not saying I'm against. I'm saying a lot of times what they do is they get our vote and then they put what we want aside. They sacrifice working on what our issues are, trying to get what we want done. That's one thing they let go to work on something else. And all I'm saying is this: is don't sacrifice what we want. Don't push that to the back burner and then focus on something else. No, when you came and talked to us and what we said was important, that still needs to be important. You need to protect our issue like you're trying to save the king.
Okay, so that's what I was going to share with you. You, in your response, it's not the pawn, it's the king. We got to stay focused on the purpose. The pawns are there to help us, to get us to where we need to get to. We got to make these sacrifices. So
right.
they're just as important. When people say that, I'm like, no. So your premise,
you know what? No,
your premise was,
and I apologize because you're so right.
There it is. That's
you're
all
so
you need
right.
to
And
say. That's all you need to say.
I apologize for even thinking that I was thinking what I was thinking when I thought.
What you did was what I love. You clarified your position because it wasn't clear. And again, we have to be just as diligent. We have to be just as Lisa, you said the word earlier, courage. It's not easy to be on that front line.
It's not easy being cheesy.
That's what that pawn is. It's not easy to be right there. It's not. So we got to know, and they have to know what our purpose is. Because then at that point,
the pawn is on the front line.
It's on the front line.
It is on the front line.
And it's important that we stay on the front line. We can't say, oh, no. We got to be on the front line. We got to be courageous. We got to be at the meetings telling that politician, guess what? You're not doing the thing that we voted you for. That purpose that we talked about, remember? You said you was going to do this. You're not doing that. We got to be on the front line to do that. We can't wait, and that's why we lose. We wait for something to happen. Then we're like, oh, yeah, it's too late. You already lost the game.
This is Kitchen Talk, CTC.
Conversations
that cook.
They cook. They really cook, and they simmer, and they, they do a little bit of everything.
Everything.
It is what we do in the kitchen. I thought I was a talker, but these two right here, that's me, I'm trying to tell you.
Listen, I barely talked tonight.
It was fabulous.
You see how she do. You see how she do, Doc.
What I do? Listen. If you are watching us on YouTube, we want you to hit the subscribe button. Oh, I almost forgot. Listen, this is our summer subscriber campaign. That's what we up to right now. Subscribe. We have gift prizes and a guest appearance on the show. We're going to do our drawing August 25th, which is around my birthday, but it's August. Y'all can't see it, but I got on my August tee. August is the best month of the year. So we're going to do that. It's going to be a whole birthday party early I celebrate all month. So
all month.
I start on August 1st. Actually, I start like July 31. And then I kind of float into September a little bit because my birthday is like at the end of the month. So, it linger on a little bit. But that's what we're doing. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Pastor D.
My honor.
For hanging out with us. Appreciate you so much.
Absolutely.
I will be sending, more emails saying, hey, can you hop on with us? Thank you, France. Thank you, Marvin, for hanging out with us. Appreciate you guys so much. We're going to be right back here next week, next Thursday in this same place, 9:00. Hopefully you can join us. But if you hit that subscribe button, it'll give you this notification and you'll never miss another show. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, and good night.
You're about to say something.
I was going to ask you, France, what's the name of the book?
I really want to Chess for Life, Life for Chess.
I really want to get the book.
We'll talk. I'll get you a signed autograph copy. And I probably need to send one to Dr. Scott too, because he don't.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry for even bringing it up.
I'm gonna get all of y'all on the game. We got.
Definitely. Man, listen. Oh, we got to do our next book club. I'll let y'all know about that soon too.
Do Chess for Life. How about that? Life for Chess.
Life for Chess. That's the next book.
Man, this cat.
We playing to win. We playing to win. This ain't no game. Oh, yeah.
You think this is a game?
You think it's a game?
Good night, guys.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.